Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com.
Is one required to check, clean, or do bedikas chametz to one's books, one's Sefarim? So many of us may have been accustomed in our tradition from our families or communities that before Pesach we do this interesting ritual in which we take all the hundreds and sometimes thousands of Sefarim off from the shelves, and we don't just suffice with looking to see if there's any Chametz on the shelf, but we actually flip through the pages of each individual book to make sure there's no Chametz inside. Some have a tradition to bang it 3 times on the table and then all the Chametz is shaken out. Others flip through all the pages, and others go as far as use a knife to go through the creases of the binding of each individual page, which probably will take them till next Pesach if they go through all their books. And others do absolutely nothing to their books. They take the books off the shelf, make sure there's no Chametz, and put the books back. They don't open the books to check for Chametz. What in truth is required according to halacha? What is the proper law and what is the proper and widespread minhag on this matter? To check books or not to check books? To do the flipping and banging ritual with the books, or to just leave them on their shelf as be after you've checked the shelf for Chametz? Now, although Sefarim books have a very high chance that they contain crumbs of Chametz, as you have eaten throughout the entire year, different Chametz snacks and foods that have crumbs while learning from your Sefarim, so there's high chance that a crumb of Chametz has fallen inside. Nonetheless, the question is asked, is one in truth required according to halacha to search out and destroy for those tiny crumbs? So to understand this halacha, we must first introduce a few very important and fundamental concepts in the mitzvah of destroying chametz, checking for chametz, and the isser of owning chametz. We have an explicit Mishnah in Maseches Beitza, the first Mishnah, in which Beis Hillel states that the isser deraisa of owning chametz is by a kazayis. Just like all matters of Torah have a shira measurement, so to owning chametz has a measurement, and that measurement is a kazayis. This implies that less than a kazayis is not usher biblically minat Torah to own, and is only forbidden rabbinically, and so in truth concludes many poskim, including the Alter Rebbe in Shulchanaruchharav, chapter 442, halacha 28. While some argue and say chetzi shir usher minat Torah, that even less than a kazayis is still biblically forbidden, just so you can't eat less than a kazayis of chametz, but nonetheless, this is the main conclusion, the halacha, that it's only rabbinical if it's less than a kazayis of chametz. But rabbinical it remains, so you still gotta destroy it. However, some Rishonim and Achreinim rule that when are you required to destroy the chametz? When do the sages say that you can't even own less than a kazayis? If you didn't nullify your chametz before Pesach, and you can't do so anymore. But if you did bittul, you already disowned, revoked yourself, and nullified the chametz, or plan to do so, then you do not have to destroy less than a kazayis of chametz. As not only is it less than a kazayis, and I don't biblically transgress regardless of nullification, if I nullify, I now have another additional reason why I'm allowed to keep it in my home. And with these two reasons combined, of nullification and lack of a measurement of a kazayis, the sages permitted for me to own it. Others go even as far and argue that, in fact, less than a kazayis is always allowed to be owned, even if you didn't nullify it. Practically, how do we rule? So, some of the poskim, including the Alter Rebbe in the Shulchanaruch, in 442.28, has a very unique arbitration regarding the above debate. And that is as follows. Less than a kazayis which you did not disown, you did not nullify, we're going to rule that you have a rabbinical obligation to destroy. However, if you did nullify it, then you don't have a rabbinical obligation to destroy it due to the rabbinical concept of tashbisu or bayra bayimatze, meaning there's no rabbinical obligation to destroy due to it being chametz or due to the prohibition of owning chametz. However, you have a separate general requirement to destroy it because you may come to eat it. This is a general concept with all non-kosher food. You're not allowed to own non-kosher food in your home because you may come to eat it. You can't save the afrashas challah in your freezer because you may come to eat it. It has nothing to do with chametz. It's a general rule by non-kosher foods. So although we will conclude that if it's less than a kazayis and you nullified it, there's no unique obligation anymore from the aspect of chametz to require its destruction, and you don't transgress tashbis or by yimatzi if you own it, nonetheless, you got to get rid of it because you may come to eat it. Now there's two exceptions even to this rule in which we say that you don't have to get rid of it at all, and you can actually leave the chametz in your home. First exception, writes the Alter Rebbe based on previous poskim and rishonim, if this chametz is dirty, if the less than kazayis chametz, which you nullified or plan to do so, when you say kol chamira on the night of b'dikas chametz, is dirty, so you won't come to eat it anyways, there's no need to get rid of it, you can leave it at home. That's the first exception. The second exception is an opinion recorded in many poskim, that we only suspect you'll come to eat chametz that's significant, like a nice cookie. It's less than a kazayis, you nullified it, but it's a nice, delicious looking cookie. A gluska yafa. However, crumbs, they're nullified and considered destroyed, and no one thinks of eating them. You find them, you throw them out. No one even wants to eat them. There's no suspicion you'll come to eat them. So if it's a mere crumb, and it's less than a kazayis, and you nullified it before Pesach or plan to do so, you don't have to look for it, you don't have to get rid of it, you don't have to destroy it. Now this second approach, second exception, the Alter Rebbe does not hold of in the Shulchan Aruch, and he requires for even a crumb that's insignificant to be searched for and destroyed by b'dikas chametz. However, in his Kuntras Achron, which was written many years later, it seems that he retracted and ruled like this opinion. So taking all this information in mind, let's now go into our specific question. What's the deal with checking Sefarim for Chametz? Must you do so or not? And the answer. So machlokes amongst today's poskim. And poskim of the previous generations based on everything we explained until now. Some poskim say there is absolutely zero requirement to check books for chametz. You don't have to open them up at all, even though we all know there's a big chance there's crumbs inside. You've eaten while you learned the whole year. You've eaten cake, cookies, there's crumbs. We don't care about it because it's less than a kazayis, and you plan on nullifying it by the night of b'dikas chametz, and it's not edible. Nobody's going to eat a crumb. So is one way of learning from the Alter Rebbe. And so rules the halacha of Ben Zion Abba Shul in Erla Tzion 132, Rav Adi Yosef and Chazon Avadia of Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. So is recorded in the Madrich Aveda Acharedis. And so writes in Nittig Avril in a long set of tshuvas that minadin you're not required to check for chametz crumbs in your books. However, other poskim argue and rule that one has to be very careful to check his books for chametz, and if not, sell it to the guy. The reason is because they say you have an obligation to search and destroy even a crumb that's less than a kazayis. And crumbs are not considered destroyed on their own, as only if they are intrinsically dirty do we say you won't come to eat it. But if they're not intrinsically dirty, but they're just in a dirty area, while no one will put their finger in between the book and eat a crumb, maybe the crumb will fall on your table, you'll think it's a matzah, and that you will eat. There's no sign that that crumb is chametz and that it's dirty, so you won't come to eat it. So therefore they say you have an obligation to check all your books that have possibility of containing crumbs of chametz from chametz. Who rules this way? This is one possible way of learning from the Alter Rebbe, as these crumbs are not considered dirty enough to be considered dirty. And so rules the Gra and Ma'aser Rav, the Aruch HaShulchan, Yeshua's Chachma, the kids Shulchanaruch, the Chazon Ish, Orchos Rabbeinu, Mishnah Halachas, Piskei Tshuvas, and so concludes Nittig Avril as the practical minhag. Halacha l'maisa, what do we do? So the widespread custom of the world, including the Chabad custom, is like the first approach to be lenient and not require checking for books for chametz. Those who take the Sefarim and they just flip the pages are not doing anything. That's not considered being machmir, as it doesn't accomplish anything, as the chametz is stuck in between the crease of the pages is not going to fall out by just shaking the book. Those who were machmir would actually take a knife and go through in between each book to make sure there's no chametz, and they would check it at night, just like all b'dikas chametz is required. So the widespread custom is not to be machmir, not to do b'dikas chametz to Sefarim and have them around and use them during Pesach. So is the custom in all batei medrash and shuls that have Sefarim. They don't put them away for Pesach and people use them. And no one went through every individual page and did b'dikas chametz to it. Nonetheless, some people are machmir to put away and sell all their Sefarim and only use a select few Sefarim for Pesach and not anything else. Practically, to avoid this entire debate, it's best throughout the year to be careful not to eat chametz over your Sefarim, and if you do, to make sure to clean it right away, as writes the Aruch HaShulchan. Likewise, it's proper, even if you do check your Sefarim, to make sure not to bring Sefarim to the table where you eat, as maybe a crumb will fall inside your food. Some are machmir even to wash their hands after they use their Sefarim prior to touching food or eating. You shouldn't lick your finger and then turn pages during Pesach due to a suspicion of chametz, and if food falls on top of your sefer, you should avoid eating the food. So to summarize, there's a debate in poskim whether you need to check your Sefarim for chametz. The widespread custom is not to require to do so, and this custom has upon what to rely, including for those who follow the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch. However, it is proper to be machmir throughout the year to try not to eat chametz near the Sefarim, and some are stringent to go ahead and even sell Sefarim that weren't properly checked. And in all cases, it's a proper precaution to not bring Sefarim to the table, to wash your hands after you touch them, not to lick your finger and then touch the pages, and if food falls on the sefer, not to eat the food. To remember, however, that all the above discussion is only regarding checking the actual books for chametz, but the bookcases and the shelves obviously need to be checked if they were ever used during the year. Perhaps a chametz crumb or candy or something the like was left there, and therefore you have to remove your Sefarim from the bookshelf and put them back. But to check the actual Sefarim themselves, that's what the above debate was regarding. May Hashem guard us from even a pirur, a small crumb of chametz, in which we have the guarantee of the Arizal that by avoiding shum, Hashem will protect us from sinning even inadvertently.
Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com. Our free services of making Torah knowledge available to the public depends on donors like you. Please help us continue our work through making even a small contribution at Shulchanaruchharav.com under the Daily Halacha Dedication section or in the subscription page. Also, check out our online courses and many Sefarim available for purchase that will both enhance your Torah knowledge and help support our work.